What's up, guys? So it's been a while. I do think it's a good time to do a video because of the Bristol race that just passed and just the never-ending complaints, right, from fans about the car and the short track package and all this stuff. So let me head over to this page. Okay, I'm here. So I talked about this earlier. I don't remember if it was during a live stream or whatever, but I'm going to mention it again because it's just mind-boggling to me how NASCAR, these teams, like, I don't hear people talking about this. In my opinion, there is a very easy solution to the problems at these road courses and short tracks, right? People talking about getting rid of this car and starting over, that's delusional. NASCAR's not going to do that. Too much time, money, and resources were put into it. It's not realistic to even waste time on that, right? The same thing goes for the horsepower. We all want more horsepower. NASCAR is going to drag their feet as long as they can on that. They're not going to just do it. Again, I think there's a point where you have to realize it's a waste of time to focus on certain things, right? So, I think the easiest solution is actually the best solution, right? We saw a race in the spring at Bristol. Everybody loved it. It was insane. It was crazy because there was so much tire wear, right? And nobody could explain why these tires wore out the way they did. To this day, Goodyear, NASCAR, nobody has been able to cobble together an explanation, right? They just don't know. Now, when you're dealing with these tires, they're always talking about compound, right? Tire compound. The makeup of the tire, right? The chemicals that go into it that changes these tires from being a tire that's really hard to really soft, more grip versus longevity. That is not an exact science because you can come up with a compound that wears really well during specific track conditions, right? Weather conditions, track temperature, humidity, right? Then you bring the same exact tire to the same exact track later, different track conditions, different weather conditions, and you get a completely different outcome. So people are scratching their heads. They're wondering, they thought they were going to get something closer to what we saw in the spring. They didn't get that. And nobody can explain it. The solution, which I did mention this early, not that long ago, right? But I'm amazed how nobody's talking about this. Denny Hamlin is the only one that mentioned it, and this was many months ago, right? This was at a completely different time. And it's to bring treaded tires. It's the simplest solution. Goodyear, it wouldn't take Goodyear much to do it because it's just carving grooves into a tire. If you look at this photo, these are rain tires. I'm not talking about bringing rain tires because this is a rain tire. These tires, you cannot run them for long on a dry surface. They just won't last. So this would be to the extreme. It just won't work. So what's the solution? Well, you bring something with less treads. But this is in the right path. You look at this rain tire, you have 4 main grooves, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. On top of that, you got all these extra grooves, right? So these are the water channels. The water has to have a place to go, so it's expelled inside and to the outside and to the inside, right? That's what these channels are for. If you wanted to create a tire for dry track racing, but you want treads, you eliminate all of these water channels, right? And you see these 4 treads here? These treads are about I would say a quarter of an inch to half an inch wide. Okay? Try a tire like you see all the way over here. These are slicks. There's no treads on them. So you take a slick and you carve 4 treads into it. Test it. Test it at Phoenix. Test it at Martinsville. Test it at Bristol. See what happens. And if a tire with 4 treads, let's say, gives you 40 laps, and you're saying that's too extreme, well then you get a tire and you carve 3 treads instead of 4. So you can easily control how much tire wear is evident at a racetrack, and the weather conditions are going to have very little to do with it because it's all about contact patch. Excuse me. The less contact patch you have on the tire, the more it's going to wear. So you try a tire with 4 grooves. If it's too extreme, then you try one with 3. If that's too extreme, you go to 2. You can test it, you can monitor it, and then you can come up with the perfect tire for short tracks and road courses. You try these different numbers of treads on these tires. Like I said, I'm not talking about a treaded tire for rain, right? These have a million fucking treads everywhere, right? So you got 4 main treads, then you got all these mini treads. Every tread is less contact patch. So you cannot run this on a dry track. We've seen what happens on a track where they run this and it stops raining and the track is starting to dry up. And you see like, oh my God, there's a big difference in fall off. The dry track will chew these tires up, right? So you have to figure out how many treads to put on these tires. It won't take Goodyear any work to carve out treads into a slick. It's the most basic science that you can focus on. They're focused on tire compounds, and compounds react different under different temperatures, different track temps, weather conditions, air temperature, humidity. There's too many factors involved. So you can come up with a compound and then it doesn't work. On the week before at Watkins Glen, they brought a softer tire. It made no difference. It was not noticeable at all. But if you bring a tire with a couple of treads in it, you're guaranteed to have more tire wear. Then it's up to NASCAR to test out how many laps can you get at Martinsville, at Bristol, at a road course with a certain number of treads. And if you have to adjust that, then you go back to Goodyear and say 4 treads were a bit too much, the tire's wearing out too much. Give us one with 3 treads. Less treads, more grip, and more contact patch, I should say. It's not going to wear as much. And then you see what happens there. Oh, now we get 55 laps instead of 40. We can live with that. Or you go to 2 treads. You put 1 tread here and 1 here, and then you see how that works. It's the simplest solution that is guaranteed to work. All of these other solutions that people talk about, adding horsepower, NASCAR refuses to do it. And even if they added some power, it's not going to guarantee that you're going to get better racing. I'm just telling you, I think it will, but there's no guarantee in that. It's the most costly. It's just not going to happen. At least not now. This is a simple solution. And Goodyear doesn't have to focus as much on compound. They could just say, well, it's just the treads. That will do all the work. And then you will get a lot closer to what we had in the Bristol race in the spring. That was excessive. It was way too much. But like I said, you monitor how many treads are on the tires and you test that. And then you get a much more predictable tire that's going to give you a lot more tire wear at short tracks and road courses. That's your solution. The car, too much time, energy, and resources went into developing that car. There are things about that car I don't like. I don't like shifting on ovals. If they can come up with a 4-speed transmission, sequential, exactly like this one, but instead of 5 gears, only 4 gears, that would help. Because when you downshift at a lot of these tracks, that reduces the tire wear. You should never be shifting on an oval track. I mean, that's been a problem from day one. If there's anything I would focus on, that's the first thing. The aero on these cars, everybody talks about aero. Aero is the most finicky thing to deal with because it's really deep when it comes to physics and science, right? You can do a lot in the wind tunnel and you still come out to the racetrack and it's you may not get what you saw in the wind tunnel. Look at all the work that was put into this car. And they thought they would get better racing everywhere. It hasn't happened. Fortunately, this car actually, as is, puts on a great show at 1.5 miles and bigger tracks. That's not the problem. So if you can create a tire with grooves that you use in short tracks and road courses, now you can easily have a change when you go to specific tracks, and it doesn't require any deep scientific changes to the car. It doesn't require more horsepower. You have less contact patch. You will have better racing. The tire's going to wear more. And you're not relying on scientists at Goodyear trying to come up with the perfect compound. That the perfect compound doesn't exist because, again, it depends on weather conditions, track temperatures. There's a lot of things that play into the wear of these tires when you're only focused on compound. Carve a few treads into these tires and that is your perfect solution. I know look, I'm not a scientist, I'm not, an expert, but it's proven that the more tire wear you have, the better the racing is, no matter where you are. We saw the greatest fucking Bristol race ever in spring, and now you saw a race that everyone hated. What's the difference? People are talking about horsepower and the downforce and this and that. But nobody's talking the tire. Everybody's scratching their head. Well, we brought the same tire. We didn't get the same result. We don't know what happened. Stop focusing on compound. Add a couple of treads to the tire, and that you can easily adjust. Because if you bring a tire with 4 treads and it wears out too much, then you take out a tread and now you put only 3 treads. You can control how much contact patch you have on these slicks on the track. And you can promote more tire wear. And then the teams fight it out. That's your perfect solution. I don't understand what the people at NASCAR are thinking. Why aren't they looking at that? Why isn't Goodyear looking at that? They can say, look, we can learn from this. Let's try putting a couple of grooves in a slick. And then see how many laps you get out of those cars at short tracks and road courses. And if you have to make an adjustment, you do it. You can do it by just adding more or less treads. Simple. I know a lot of you are going to disagree, or you're going to say, no, horsepower. It's just all horsepower. They're not going to do it. They don't want to do it. I'm offering you a better solution. This is easier to control. You don't even have to worry about the compound. I mean, yeah, Goodyear is still going to look at that, But the grooves on the tires, easy to control, easy to manufacture, right? That's the solution. I don't have anything else to say about it. I'm sick and tired of the complaints. I'm sick and tired of people. Now you have Samantha Bush and Kyle Busch. They want NASCAR to just chuck this car. These people are fucking insane because he's not as successful as he used to be. So now they want NASCAR to cater to them, right? And just dump this car. That's not going to happen. People need to get their fucking heads out of their asses and deal with reality. I'm talking about a real solution. And it only deals with the tire. And just carving a few treads in the tire will give you a definite solution, and it will work. It's just a question of how many treads do you need in these tires. That's it. And then as far as 1.5 and bigger tracks, you don't have to do anything. Those races are pretty good as they are, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments. Later.